So, every successful person begins with two beliefs that the future can be better than the present, and I have the power to make it so. By this definition, then, every manager should be successful with OKRs because every OKR, no matter how mediocre, paints a picture of the future that is better than the present. And by virtue of being a manager, the company gives you a team, gives you raw power, and gives you resources to make that future a reality. Therefore, all that you need to succeed with OKRs is to create a really great one, right? So, hello everyone, my name is Mukam, and I focus on helping frontline managers transform excellence, transform strategy to excellence using OKRs. Now, I speak about this because this comes from personal experience that it is not enough that you have great OKRs. Back in 2016, only 8% of executives in the PwC study published in the Harvard Business Review were great at both strategy and execution. And trust me, I know from personal experience what it means to be down in that bottom 50%, where you're not good at execution or strategy. Because I'll never forget this day. 27th of March 2017, I had just gathered my team in the boardroom. And as you can look at the date, it was the end of the quarter. And we were there to close our OKRs for the cycle. Now, the picture actually represents a bit of what the feeling on my team and between myself and the team, what the feeling was. Because we were shocked, we were surprised, we were disappointed because the results, the future had arrived and it was nothing like what we envisaged. Because in January of that same year, we had created an amazing OKR, an OKR that we're proud of. There was a lot of enthusiasm with that OKR. So what happened? So it just felt like, we created this OKR and then there was time travel, right? Where we were in the future and it was not the future that we promised ourselves. So what happened? After the retrospective for that quarter, we discovered two things. And we discovered two things because, first of all, we were a team that were transitioning from the 4 disciplines of execution, 4DX, to OKRs. And this was our second cycle. And so these were the two things that we realized. We completely ignored the power of the whirlwind of the day job. And because we ignored it, we did not have a systemic micro strategy for that OKR. I'll explain. In every company, whether there's a strategy or not, whether there's a goal or not, this doesn't apply to startups and product teams. In every company, irrespective of whether you have a strategy or goal, people will come to work, they will do something. There is just an amount of effort, skills, resources that go into maintaining the status quo. And that is an extremely powerful thing because buried in that whirlwind of the day job is, thousands of relationships, thousands of habits that are designed to keep things going in a very specific way. And anything that is not aligned with how things should work is in trouble. And because when we ignored that, we did not have a systemic strategy. A systemic strategy is like a strategy for your OKR. Strategy is simply what you do, a set of choices that you do to make sure that that OKR that you actually set actually has a high chance of becoming reality in the future. So, of course, I should have known because, I've been online long enough that, tweets like this, they speak, they represent what it is that, the realization, that aha moment, they're hilarious, but they represent the aha moment that my team and I had back then. And the first tweet says, it's been 6 months since I joined the gym and there's no progress. I'm going there myself to see what's going on. Oh, This one that says having OKRs will magically make your organization more effective in the same way that weighing yourself every morning will make you lose weight. Why does this happen? This happens because whether you like it or not, as a manager is someone who does not do the work by themselves. They do the work through the team, works in the system. Your view of reality after setting OKRs is completely different from the view that your team has, because you tend to see things like this, especially if you put in a lot of effort in OKR. You've created this clear OKR, so there's a clear path for us to swim right to it. But this is what your team sees, especially if you involve them in creating that OKR. Yes, they see the goal, the destination, that promised future. But you know what they also see? There is a reality of their day-to-day, right? The things that they still have to do, there's performance appraisals that HR is talking about. There is, systems that are broken. All of that, the whirlwind of the day job, that is the most powerful force that keeps things in a certain way in a company. And if you are unlucky enough to have inherited a team that was badly led, you also have problems of what? Apathy and an extreme aversion to risk. And whether you like it or not, and this is something that always amuses me when I coach clients, is that whether you like it or not, in the eyes of at least some of your team, they see you as the person who does not have to do the work. Therefore, nothing is impossible for the person who doesn't have to do it himself or herself. That is the view that your team might, some or all of those components, completely different from your view of reality. Now, what is the solution? The solution is to activate. This is where my team and I failed back in March 2017. We set the OKRs, we celebrated, and because we were not intentional in creating a micro strategy or activating it, the whirlwind of the day job took control. And even though we were meeting, we're talking about it, the end was predictable. The future that did not arrive, the future that we envisioned did not arrive. But as a result of our retrospective, this is what we did differently. After we set an OKR, the very first thing we do before we go to start doing things is we activate it. Because when you activate it, you increase the odds that you and your team are actually going to create that future that the OKR is painting. But so what exactly do I mean by activation? To activate is to design a system of activities, indicators, resources, and protections that clear the path for accomplishing a specific OKR amidst the whirlwind of the day job. That is what I am going to show you exactly how. Activation is an encapsulation of the same idea from James Clear that we do not rise to the level of our OKR, no matter how outcome over output it is. We fall to the level of our systems. In this case, a unique delivery mechanism for each OKR, and that is why it's important to put some thought into it. So there are 3 stages to activating any OKR. The first is to reverse engineer it from the beginning. Start with the OKR and reverse engineer it. The second thing is to prioritize. And finally, you want to codify and share. Remember, your job as a manager is to work on the system, not in it. So these are the things. It's not enough to say, this is an OKR, it's outcome oriented, go throw things in the world and see what sticks. So this is a systematic process of helping your team chart a micro strategy to help make sure that you can actually realize the promise of your OKR. But the heart of this is in that first step, reverse engineering. And there are 4 pillars. You need a viable mission, you need a metrics, an activity matrix, you need a resource mine, and a block sentinel. And let's just look at each one of these. Here is the framework that encapsulates those 4 pillars. You start with an OKR, but the very first thing you do is you ask yourself, what are the necessary conditions? What must be true of our business environment, of our team, of our relationship with other teams, of our customers, of our products, in order for us to accomplish this OKR? Now, this is a question that takes 30 minutes of brainstorming. Does amazing, does wonders if you answer this question first. Now, after you have the necessary conditions, the next thing is to determine leading indicators. Now, I am a proponent of key results should be lagging indicators of the objective. Key results are evidence that we have arrived. But as we all know, lagging indicators are terrible as tools of engagement. Therefore, we need signals. The problem with signals, leading indicators is that you can never be certain. So, identifying a set of signals that will tell you that you're on the right track to that future is a core part of activating. And once you do that, this is where most teams, most people tend to go to once they start OKRs. They start doing things because it's easy to start doing things. Oh, let us do this, let's do this, let's add. No. In activation, there are 4 different things you can do. Sure, you can start doing some things, but look at the existing set of activities that you already do. Are there some activities there that you could do more of? Because if you can find those activities, then you can benefit from the power of that whirlwind that normally is the enemy of anything that's the change. But also, look at those activities. Any activities that you identify that are not going to be beneficial to that OKR, you want to stop them or do less of them. That's why I call them an activity matrix. It is not just about doing things, it's about identifying things that you will stop doing or do less of things that you're already doing. Those two, the activity makes those four sets of activities, because once you do those activities, those are the things from which your leading indicators that immediately drive your leading indicators, but also the leading indicators are responsive to those activities, so you can change them. And that's where the agility, week-to-week agility comes in. And then, of course, you need resources, people, skills, and etc. to accomplish all of this. Now, viable mission, activity matrix, and resource mine. That is the kernel of activation. Of course, in practice, the way I do this in practice is that I created this so-called the OKR activation canvas. So if you get, of course, you're going to be able to download it after this session. You put it up with your team, you stick your OKR, and you simply walk through those prompts, right? What are the necessary conditions? What activities should you start doing in order to accomplish the OKR? What things should you stop doing? What existing activities should you do more of? And what existing activities do you need to cut back on? It's important because the more intentional you are about this part, these 4, that is 2, 3, 4, and 5, the more you are prepared, your team is prepared to know that, okay, we are getting dragged into the whirlwind of the day job. And then, of course, you need people, what are the skills that you need on the team? It is more, what are the skills and who has those skills, either in your team or across the company somewhere else. And then, of course, you need budgetary support. And the final part is risks and blockers, because in the real world, there are risks and blockers. So you want to identify them. Now, the beautiful thing about this matrix is that small arrow from 9 backwards, and this is the thing that helps us the most, because on a week-to-week basis, people will just add things to the blockers list. On our weekly planning meeting, we would look at everything in block 9, that's risk and blockers, and we do the back pass. That's why we have the arrow. It's simply to say, what are the things that we can do in order to remove these blockers? And that, ladies and gentlemen, is exactly how we're able to create a path to clarity for our OKR. So let's look at an example. And I take an example that is like a personal OKR, because then if you understand how this works for a personal case, then you can apply it to any OKR that you face at work, right? The OKR is that you want to restore your body to minimum health. What are the necessary conditions? What must be true for me to accomplish this OKR? 1, it must be true that diet regulates blood sugar, because, right, it must be true that diet drives weight loss, and it must be true that exercise drives both weight loss and or drives cardiovascular fitness. Of course, you see, there are assumptions in there, but just think about it. So what are some of the activities that you could start? You could start intermittent fasting. You could do cardio routine 5 times a week. What are some of the existing activities that you could do more of? Or maybe I could take more walks or longer walks as I go to the park or as I go to the office. What are the things that you want to stop? You want to stop fast food. You want to stop sugary drinks. And what are the existing activities that you do that you want to cut back on? Reduce my intake of fruit juice. And of course, what are the skills that you might need? What are the leading indicators? What will signal to me week by week that I'm headed in the right track? I could look at calorie deficit and my step count. And then what are the skills that I need? Maybe I need to learn swimming, and then I need to learn how to cook. And for that, maybe I need get swimming gear, buy a slow cooker, and buy a subscription to Chef TV, the channel. Of course, there are risks and blockers. I have knee osteoarthritis. I travel quite a lot, and I'm pre-diabetic. So because I identify these things, I can mitigate them. Now, that is what the canvas is. So the question for everyone now is, what do you do after you create your OKR? The default thing to do is to go to work. Throw things at the wall, see what sticks. You fight the whirlwind. Maybe you will win. But that is leaving things to luck. I'm saying that there's another way. Activate it. And to activate it is simply you identify bets. Via negativa is that look at things that you might take away, not just things that you want to do, and you identify the signals. And that way, you create your unlock. Questions? Questions? Or comments? Let me see. Look in the comments. I don't see any questions in the comments here.
Okay, I was also checking. Yes, hello, Macomb. Thank you so much for your presentation. And I'm also looking for your questions, but I see that there's no further questions. Well, as people ask about your canvas, I think it is an eye-opening canvas, and it's a quick way. I see that there are questions about that. And would you like to?
Yes, the canvas, in the support material that I sent to the organizers, to Neil, everyone who attended, you're going to get an email from the organizers how to get this canvas, because you can download the canvas. It's free of charge. There's an email course that guides you how to use this, but also I've developed a series of AI prompts that can help you walk through this, just so that it doesn't become too intimidating. So typically I find that, before AI, this would take, I'll sit together with a team. In 2 hours, with a large team, with a team of 7 people, would fill the canvas. But with AI, with some of the AI prompts that I've developed, you can do this in 45 minutes to an hour. So you get an email from the organizers how to get it. But if you don't, you follow me on socials, and I'll point you to it directly.
Great. So the questions in the canvas are widely appreciated, and I was also impressed when I first saw it. I remember. So we can say that without defining what success is, it's also hard to reach the success. So thank you very much for everything. And now we can move forward to the next session. That will be Ian Harvey.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.